Welcome to Critical Role Demystified. I'm Mike Christensen, and this is the series where I break down the lessons we can learn as GMs and as players from episodes of Critical Role. Today we're tackling Liam's second one-shot, The Screw Job. Matt, Marisha, and Taliesin were at Burning Man, so Liam ran a game for Travis, Laura, and Sam, as well as for Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, aka Zara, and their friend Ashley Birch, who had appeared in a Pathfinder one-shot earlier in the year, and would go on to be in a lot more one-shots before eventually being a guest in the show proper in Campaign 2. And in this case, Liam had a very clear plan for this session. It was time for an evil party. This bonus episode of Critical Role Demystified was sponsored by Stephanie Moss, one of my patrons. Anyone who supports me at $35 a month, even if it's only for 1 month, even if it's only for 1 day, is able to choose a Critical Role one-shot they'd like me to discuss. We've got a few of these lined up over the next couple of months. I'm really excited to talk about all of them. And this one especially was interesting to revisit because I haven't rewatched this one in literally years, probably since it came out. I think I maybe watched it once or twice when it first aired, so going back to it for the first time was really revealing. There's a lot of fantastic lessons here. So let's get on with the show. We're introduced to everyone's characters through an intro video narrated by Liam, and this is excellent showmanship. If this was intended for the players, I'd be picking it apart to see what lessons we could learn from it. And maybe I'll make a video some other day about using videos in D&D games. I've done it once or twice, maybe I'll do it again and I'll have more to talk about that time. Like, maybe someday I'll make a video explaining the premise of a campaign to potential players, and then, if I do that, I'll make a video about that, about the video I made. And a video like the one Liam made here, where they talk about the plan ahead of them and the important NPCs, would be extremely valuable to use in a one-shot where the characters have a mission briefing. Maybe if you're running a Mission Impossible style game, your briefing could be a video you made in advance. That could be a lot of fun. Maybe I'll have to do that at some point. But the video in this session is not for the players' benefit, it's for the audience's. In fact, the players aren't even allowed to watch it, because this video exposes all the secrets the player characters are keeping from each other. Secrets Liam assigned to the players. And this is where we can learn some lessons from how Liam set up this game. So here's the premise. We're in Amon before the Chroma Conclave attack. Spiraling Shen of the Clasp is sending some agents to steal from a halfling woman named Adelaide Bluebutton, aka the Shrew. She's a former ally of the Clasp and a gifted magic user, and Shen wants a huge emerald in her possession. I believe all these characters are 4th level, which is a great level for a one-shot, by the way. Once you get to 5th level, spellcasters can cast Fireball, and the magic starts really dramatically changing things very quickly in combat. So 4th level is great because characters are hardy, but not too powerful to really mess with your adventure too much. Although, as we'll see in a moment, we don't really have a ton of magic users in this adventure. Travis is playing Tarvis, a half-orc assassin rogue, the leader of this mission. His secret, the emerald they're looking for, is just the cover. He's actually after a ledger of contacts. Sam is playing Abby the Rat, a dwarf thief rogue. He's loyal to Tarvis, and he has no secret because Liam thought that would be funny. Mary Elizabeth plays Delwith, an elf arcane trickster rogue, and she secretly hates Tarvis and plans to bump him off tonight as soon as they find the gem. And she has no qualms killing the entire team in the process if that's what it takes. Ashley plays Dren, a halfling assassin rogue, and she's been babysitting Laura's character, Devon, a halfling sorcerer and gambling addict who the Clasp has under house arrest leading up to the heist. Devon is the Shrew's estranged granddaughter, and she's going to help the Clasp break in and steal the emerald. While Dren protected Devon, they fell in love, and they plan to kill everyone else and run away together with that emerald. That's Dren's secret. But Devon's secret is that she plans to betray Dren as well and escape on her own with the emerald. So that's the setup. 5 characters, most of whom have a reason to betray each other. And in this case, Liam definitely put his thumb on the scale hard. The players came up with their character names, but Liam gave them their secrets. And I suspect he also gave them a lot of information about their characters. Maybe he even rolled their characters for them like he did for the first one-shot. And this is obviously speculation, I don't know this part for sure, but Liam is running a game full of rogues, and making Laura the only non-rogue in the party would be very in line with his sense of humor. So I suspect he gave everyone their characters. But it's also very possible he went to them and said, hey, here are the archetypes for this game. We've got 4 rogues who are members of the Clasp. One of them's a leader, one of them's a thief, one's an arcane trickster, one's the liaison with their hostage/ally, and that ally is a sorcerer who knows the layout of the place they're robbing. Who's interested in playing what? But either way, providing pre-generated character options to the players is a great approach for a one-shot like this for a few reasons. First of all, it helps make sure all the characters are in line with the premise of the game. The last thing you want is to run a one-shot of assassins and thieves who are all ready to betray each other, and have someone sit down at the table ready to play an incorruptible paladin who will absolutely have no place in this one-shot. Second, it gives you an opportunity to tie the characters and their backstories into the adventure. The first 5th edition starter set offers pre-made character sheets with the classic classes: 2 fighters, a cleric, a rogue, and a wizard. But also some of these characters have aspects in their backstory that link them to the adventure. The dwarf cleric has family ties to the NPC they want to rescue. The noble human fighter has family ties to the history of the region around Phandelver. These details help give the players an excuse to invest their characters into the adventure, which is really valuable. And the third benefit to pre-made characters, as we see from this setup, handing out or assigning pre-made characters is a great way to distribute secrets. The first time I played Unknown Armies, my game master assigned everyone a pre-made character for a one-shot. Some of us were escaped prisoners, the rest of us were hostages. And there were secrets on some of those character sheets which either guided their choices or foreshadowed other events in the one-shot. But in both cases, the goal was to create a volatile setup that was guaranteed to boil over into PvP. Now that's another big consideration with this setup. No matter what happens, PvP is basically inevitable. And that's something I would make sure your players know when you recruit them, that this is an evil campaign and you are expecting them to backstab each other. You can tell them that they got a special secret, but I might also mention that some of the other characters got secrets as well, and some of those secrets might put a target on your back. So if you want your character to survive, you'll need to act on your secret before the other players manage to act on theirs. The reason I say that is because not everyone likes playing evil characters. I've been in an evil campaign where at least one player didn't make someone all that bad at all because they didn't want to play someone evil. And in both the evil campaigns I've been a part of, the campaign was set up so that our evil characters had a good reason to work with each other. But that's not the case here. This is a lot closer to that Unknown Armies one-shot. And I do think people are more willing to be evil if it's a one-shot, and they're probably even more willing to be evil if you build their character on their behalf, so they don't have to try to figure out what amount of evil they're supposed to be. You've taken care of that for them. But even still, in a scenario like this, it's not out of the question for the one player with the evil secret to just not act on it, either because there isn't a good time to do so during the game, or they don't feel comfortable being mean to their friends, or they feel like their character has learned their lesson during the arc of the episode, so there's no need to go through with it anymore. Not everyone likes playing bad guys, and if you tell players in your pre-existing gaming group that they have to play someone evil, which is what Liam did here, well, not all of them might feel up for it. So that's why I would say, and if you don't pull off your plan, there's a decent chance you'll wind up on the receiving end of someone else's evil secret. So you need to be smart, but you do need to play your character with their secret goal in mind, because that's going to be the fun part of the session. At least that's how I think I would handle the setup at my table, where I know everyone has a secret. If it's more like the Unknown Armies one-shot, where we have a lot more normal people as well as people with secrets, I'd probably just tell everyone, your goals and motivations are on your sheet, make sure to play into those. This story isn't really going to work if you don't. But the end result is the same. You're essentially asking everyone to play along. And I have to say, I am so impressed with this setup. It's a really smart recipe for conflict, because everyone's plans are set to go off at the same moment, when the party reaches their goal. And in most D&D games, once the party gets to the MacGuffin, that's usually it, that's the victory. But in this case, the Emerald seems like the green light, for all these racers to start their engines and start driving toward their sudden but inevitable betrayals. But that also means that the rest of the session can be a more typical D&D adventure, with 4 rogues and a sorcerer making their way through a dungeon to pull off a heist. But you can also imagine some folks might be keeping some tricks up their sleeves for when they see the Emerald and start killing off their competition. And this helps set it apart from something like a battle royale, because in this case, nobody's going to get killed off halfway through and have to just sit and watch the rest of the session because they died early. Something that can absolutely happen in a battle royale and is almost certainly not going to be a lot of fun for that player. Here, the party still has to work together to get through the dungeon, until the final moments of the session. Again, such a great premise for an evil party one-shot. As long as you make sure everyone at the table is comfortable with PvP, just this once, then you've got a great recipe for drama. The game opens with the party in the clasp headquarters at the Diamond Nest Tavern, and we get a quick cameo from Garthok as a clasp NPC. That's a fun little detail. And then Dren goes to get Devon from Ursel, and let's see if the other players can pick up on Dren's secret love affair with Devon. It's subtle, but she's starting to foreshadow it.
I just want to see, do you need anything? Do you need, like, food or water or...
Oh, you're so kind. I think if you brought me anything, they might catch on, though.
Oh, right. Okay. I just worry about you. You know, alone in the
worry
dark.
about you, too. I think the sooner that, we can get to the house, the sooner we can end all this.
That's true. Okay. I wrote a haiku for you. Do you want to hear it?
I would love to.
Okay. What's your last name again?
Should I pull up a chair for this and watch?
Oh!
I could get some popcorn.
Silence! Prison! Hi! Sorry.
I heard when you hit me.
Hi! I was just checking. How are you?
Spiraling is waiting for you, right?
Oh! No, I'll go right now to go. Don't you go anywhere. Oh, yeah, you better be scared. Yeah, I'm gone.
Bring the girl.
Oh, right.
I don't know if any of the other players noticed, do you? That's the fun part of giving people secrets and setting them loose in a game. Sometimes those secrets are going to be worn right on their sleeves. Granted, we don't know from this that Devon and Dren are going to betray the others, so that's still being kept hidden. Now, our 5 let's say heroes, meet with Spiraling Shen for last looks before their mission. The players ask a couple of clarifying questions, but mostly it's a formality. They know what they need to know. Then they sneak through the sewers, and Liam handles this part completely through narration, no rolls. He just says, Abby knows these sewers well, you've got a map for the parts you don't know that well, you're carrying torches so the halflings can see, and you arrive at the drainage pipe you plan to use to sneak into the mansion. This is a great way to handle the stuff that doesn't matter. In this session, Liam doesn't have anything planned to make sure the travel is going to be interesting or dangerous, so he doesn't bother trying. He just skips it and puts them in front of the pipe.
I will go first.
Really?
Yes. Let me tell you a story. Do you know why they call me Abby the Rat?
I do. You want to tell them?
Because I'm small. Like rat. I go first.
As Abby scrambles into the sewer pipe, Liam describes that Delwith sees a brick in the wall that doesn't match the others. Again, this is so smart. He doesn't tell Delwith what it is. He just brings it to her attention, and then she chooses to examine it, and she rolls, and he tells her that it will move in and out of the wall if pressure's put on it. He also tells her that this roll will also apply to checking for traps. In just that single moment, he taught his players how to interact with this adventure. You should look around for clues, and you should check for traps. Right now, he functionally handled both of those for her because he just announced something that she spotted, and once she rolled, he said, okay, we're going to include the traps as part of that roll. But this still sends the message that they should investigate their surroundings for secrets and traps. It's really clever. In fact, Devin says, I wonder if this works the way it does upstairs. And then she cuts her hand and puts it against the brick, and a secret door opens. And again, talk about teaching your players. Now they know there are other doors that work the same way. But it also took about 20 seconds to open, so this isn't something they can do if they're in the middle of initiative. And we immediately see that this lesson has worked, because Tarvis checks the door for traps. And at this point, Sam pokes his head out of the sewer pipe, ready to guide them all through the mansion, because Sam is an expert at comedic timing. They walk down the hall, and Devin casts dancing lights and makes a glowing man to illuminate the hallway for the halflings.
Do you guys want to hear a haiku I wrote?
A haiku.
Yeah.
What the fuck is a haiku?
It's like a poem.
It's a 757-meter poem.
Hobby.
Well, 5, 5.
Not where I'm from.
Sure, Dren. We'd love to hear one.
Thanks, Tarvis. Wow, I really didn't think you were going to go for that. Okay. We walk down a thing. There is a bright man here, too. We are all much friends.
You wrote that
Yeah.
ahead of time?
Yeah, I worked on it really hard.
How long?
A couple hours?
Dren is truly too pure for this world. I mean, literally in this case. As they walk, Tarvis checks for traps, but he doesn't roll that great, so he hears a click under his foot and freezes. You notice a bunch of holes in the walls and ceilings, presumably full of things ready to be released once Tarvis lifts his foot back up. Delwith can use Mage Hand to press down on the pressure plate just to try the old Indiana Jones weight switch. Now, Abby doesn't think that's going to work, so he panics and runs down the hall, hitting another pressure plate trap and sending acid spraying out of all the holes, before Tarvis had the chance to step off the plate and retreat, so both Tarvis and Abby are covered in acid.
I'm sorry, I panicked. You did panic. You did panic. You know why they call me Abby the Rat?
Why?
Rats survive.
You might have noticed that Abby and Dren have a couple of basically catchphrases that they can come back to over and over. This is super useful when you're playing a new character, especially for a one-shot where you really need to communicate who this character is extremely effectively and efficiently, because you're only going to get a little bit of time with them. So if you give yourself some very distinctive personality quirk, it can be a really handy way to find a way into that character. That's great advice for players, especially during one-shots. As the party continues down the hall checking for traps, Liam says Tarvis doesn't see any other traps, but he does look down and see the 3 healing potions in his pack, and takes some comfort in knowing that they're there. What a brilliant way to deliver information to the players. Liam knows the party just took a bunch of damage and might want to heal, but they have no healers in the party. However, Tarvis has 3 healing potions, and in fact I think all the members of the Clasp have the same number of healing potions. They all have 1 superior and 2 greater. But I don't know when that was established. Was it written on their character sheets and the players may not have even seen those yet? Did Liam tell the players about the potions before the game? If so, did he tell them minutes before or days before? Regardless, it's entirely possible, no matter the scenario, that Travis and the other players have forgotten about them once the game began, since they haven't interacted with the potions yet. So Liam wants to make sure that Travis knows they exist in case he wants to take a potion and heal himself. But he doesn't just say, and don't forget, you have 3 healing potions. Instead he says, as you know. Now this is something I'll probably talk about some other day on my other channel, the Super Geek Academy, where I make video essays that don't have anything to do with D&D. But typically, as an audience, we hate as you know dialogue. If everyone in the scenario already knows a thing, then why are we wasting time saying it except for the benefit of the audience? It always feels artificial, it always takes you out of the whatever you're watching. But when you're a game master, delivering as you know narration can be extremely effective, because Liam phrases this exposition in a way that doesn't make Travis feel bad if he didn't know or forgot that he had some healing potions. And he even integrates it into Tarvis's line of sight as he examines the room around him. He basically says, as you're doing so, you catch out of the corner of your eye the potions and they make you feel better. It's so smooth and so smart. I can't get over how good Liam is at running games. It's extraordinary. They come across another sigil for a locked door, and Abby cuts his hand and puts his blood into the stone, but it doesn't work, because it has to be someone related to the Shrew. This actually does a great job of explaining why Devon had to come along this mission in the first place. If she wanted the crew to succeed, she could have just given them a map and explained everything they needed to know. If she wanted to come along so she could betray them, but didn't have a good reason to join them, it would have been suspicious. So some doors are locked to anyone who isn't related to the Shrew. Now, Devon has to come with them, and they need her for the entire mission. This is such good game design. They pass through the door and enter a storage room. Also at this point, Tarvis insight checks Devon, and we get to see how Liam handles a rule he doesn't know in real time.
Oh man, this is one of those instances where I'm just gonna homebrew it because I don't know what the rule is.
I think,
Is it
do
your
I roll
wisdom?
against it?
Yeah, sure you do.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's no chat room, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, also don't tweet me because I don't care.
Mwah! Perfectly handled. First of all, he doesn't know the rule, and he just says so. I'm going to homebrew it because I don't know the rule. He doesn't pretend he's got an encyclopedic knowledge of the rules because nobody does, and it doesn't serve him in this moment to pretend that he does. And by telling his players he's going to come up with his own ruling, he's functionally opening the door to his players to offer their suggestions, which is exactly what Laura does. And she feels like she's able to do so because he's admitted he doesn't know the rule and he just needs to make a ruling right now. She suggests one, and he feels like that works for him, so he's going to use that. And then, because this is a streamed game, he knows somebody in the audience probably knows the real rule, if there is one, and they might be tweeting it at him or posting it in the chat. But what good does that do him? He's at the table playing the game his way. If he wants to know the rule later, he could seek it out, but he doesn't need people to correct him if he's happy with how it went at the table. So he just says, I don't care what the real rule is. Now that's probably only partially true. Like I said, if it matters to him, he'll look it up. But he super does not need the input of anyone else on his game, so he just says, yeah, don't bother, don't at me. Perfect response. Anyway, they find a writing desk and some info, including surveillance on General Krieg Tristan, so this session takes place way back. Krieg was a member of the Chroma Conclave, he was secretly a blue dragon, and he was killed by Vox Machina quite a while ago. But mostly on this desk, there's a lot of business papers here, nothing the players really know what to do with. One paper includes the sale of a dragon wormling, so hey, that helps explain something that had happened in Vox Machina's pre-stream game. There's a little bit of a closed loop there. They find a staircase leading up, and they lead to a room full of treasure chests. This is the Shrew's basement, and one of the two places they could expect to find their quarry. Devon opens up one of the chests and reveals a bunch of gold, and insists they could just take some. That's what she did, she stole gold and used it for gambling. But as she does so, one of the nearby chests springs to life and attacks them. It's a mimic, and it's initiative, so here are the highlights. The mimic grapples Devon, so everyone gets a sneak attack to hit the mimic. That works out pretty well. Nice to have a party full of rogues. But weapons stick into the mimic and can't be pulled free, and this happens to a lot of things. Their daggers and their rapiers and so on. Another chest behind them also reveals itself to be a mimic and attacks. Dren actually gets the kill on both the chests.
Do you guys want to hear haikus?
Do you have a haiku?
I'd love
for
to hear a
this?
haiku. Do you have one ready for us?
I killed all the chests. They are now all dead, so I am the best, y'all.
Y'all.
And honestly, if you're doing a heist storyline, you gotta throw some mimics in there. Sorry, that's the rule. Okay, I'm joking. I mean, I'm not, but let's pretend I am. But having monsters that function the exact way a trap does is great for a heist. So it doesn't have to be a mimic, even though it should be, but it could be animated objects set to attack on certain triggers, or a gelatinous cube doing a patrol, or an imp, or some other devil or demon bound by a magical spell or a contract and forced to serve the mark. All that stuff works really well. But the reason mimics work especially well, apart from the fact that they're a great challenge for a low-level party like this one, is in part because they punish players for not being careful when checking for traps, which helps train the players to be more careful. And also, if they're in the classic form of treasure chests, that's even better, because they're likely to be located in the same places as other valuables, like the other chests in this room, which means the players get an automatic monetary reward for defeating the mimic, and that just feels good. Now, in addition to Devon implying that the emerald might be in one of these chests, she also keeps insisting that they should just grab some gold. And when Tarvis says no, wandering around their house jingling would not be a good idea, Devon just grabs a bunch of money anyway, trying to sneak it into her pockets. I honestly get the sense that this might have also been a mandate from Liam, since we know Devon has a gambling problem, and might just grab a bunch of gold when it's not advisable. Plus, Once again, thinking about Liam's sense of humor, he might have given her this flaw to tease Laura about Vex's greed. Now, they look, but the emerald is not in this room, so the only other place it could be is on the top floor. Again, great design. Put their target in the farthest place from where they entered. Now, in a dungeon, that's easy. There's only 1 or 2 ways into any dungeon anyway, so you just put the final room at the other end of the dungeon. Simple. But with a house, there's a bunch of ways in. If the party knew their target was on the top floor, they could have scaled the building from the outside and entered from the highest window available. Even if that was still below the floor in question, like they're trying to get to the attic but there's no windows on that floor, they could still basically skip half the house full of traps. But by making the basement one of the 2 places it could be, and starting them off there, we've got a fantastic reason for the characters to enter as far from their destination as possible. They came up below the basement because it would be more easily accessible through the sewers. So if the emerald was here, then they could just take it and go, and they'd be out immediately. But it's not there. So now they're in the house, and that's good, but they have to go through the entire building to get to the final room of the dungeon, which is the treasure room. Seriously, brilliant design for this above-ground dungeon-style structure in an urban environment. It's genuinely great. They go up the stairs to the first floor and enter the Shrew's office. The center of the room has a brass column covered in constellations, and there are 5 dog beds around it. The Shrew didn't have dogs the last time Devin was here, so this is new.
How do you feel about dogs?
Do you know why they call me Abby the Rat?
No.
I hate dogs.
The stuff on the Shrew's desk is weird and cryptic and creepy. There's an unsettling leather-bound book in a Bible stand written in a language none of them recognize. There's other clues that she's up to weird stuff, but nobody can make any sense of it. They move into the foyer and they see guards moving around outside the windows. A nice reminder that they can't cause too much of a commotion or the Shrew's guards will jump into action. They also can't, try to skip the rest of the stuff inside the house by leaving, scaling the building, and going in a higher window, because the guards outside are not going to let that happen. Again, just reinforcing the fact that they have to go through this entire dungeon. Smart. Abby and Dren check the library and find an erotic novel, which Abby hands off to Dren, as helpful research. Devin and Delwith check the tea room, and Devin says, "Look, we could be friends. I haven't hurt the clasp at all, so I don't know why you all hate me." Delwith says it's hard for her to trust a gambling addict since she has some experience with addiction, but she'll help get Devin out of this in one piece, and then, maybe the 2 of them will be alright. They move upstairs all together and briefly check Devin's old room, but it's essentially empty. The furniture is piled up and covered in sheets. There's nothing of value here. So they move on to the room that Devin told them about, the fun room, aka the room where the Shrew keeps all of her magic stuff. There's paintings on the wall, a huge fish skeleton hanging from the ceiling, black iron tongs, a unicorn fetus, a pair of eyeless dolls, a taxidermied bear. Basically, I'm picturing the Hall of Magic items from Doctor Strange, except way creepier. Or actually maybe a better comparison, one I'm sure more of you are familiar with. It's like the Prodigium headquarters from the 2017 Mummy movie. Devin instructs Abby to go grab one of the shields on the wall and click it up and down, like a puzzle in a video game. But as Abby clicks it according to Devin's instructions, nothing happens. This is supposed to reveal something in the room, but it's not working. And her next option is to try one of the wall sconces, but there aren't any anymore. The Shrew has changed the security system of this room. This is another terrific detail, because if you're putting a puzzle in front of your players, you don't just want to give them the solution. That defeats the purpose. However, by having Devin describe what's supposed to happen, now the players know that there is a puzzle to solve, so they don't have to go fumbling around examining everything in the room. And they kind of know how the puzzle's supposed to work. Some object or objects mounted on the walls are supposed to slide around and act like levers. So they don't have the solution, but they do know generally what they're trying to do. And that's actually huge when it comes to D&D puzzles. Because half the time, the players either don't know it's there, they don't know there's something that even is a puzzle because it's hidden from them, or they don't know how it's supposed to work. So this setup gets the players through the most painful part of the process. It briefs them on the puzzle's existence and general function. But that's not where the cleverness ends here, because Laura is just describing what they should do. And that might not seem significant, but imagine instead if Liam had been sitting there telling her in real time what she knows, and then she relayed it in character to the rest of the party. In that scenario, there would be no ambiguity. The omniscient voice of the author is telling you how this used to work, so now that it doesn't work that way, okay, fair enough, the Shrew changed things. However, instead we have Laura recalling this information and describing it in character. And that means it's possible that she actually does know the right answer and she's just screwing with everybody. Now, nobody in the group really entertains that possibility or brings it up. They do think she may have outlived her usefulness, and they discuss killing her until Liam steps in and reminds them of the doors they needed her blood to open. He's telling them that they still might need her, at least for now. But it's entirely possible Liam took Laura aside and described a completely different puzzle, or a different sequence for the puzzle, and she's not trying to unlock anything. She's stalling, or she's trying to get them to enter the wrong code so it'll lock up the puzzle or something. And the very fact that this is a possibility in this scenario is exactly why this was so smart. And I don't know how Liam handled it, but if it were me, I would have just told Laura these details during the break. After all, you want it to be fresh on her mind, so she's not likely to misremember them. Again, I don't know if that's what he did, but it's what I would have done in this scenario. So once again, this is such a fantastic way to handle the situation in this game. And at this point, Liam actually just tells Abby he's looking around the room and noticing things. Some macabre artwork on the walls, some strange objects on shelves. He's trying to hint that there are other objects and items in the room that they could interact with. However, the players are very wary to touch anything. They find a magical trap in their path, and they walk around it since stepping through it would reverse gravity and launch them into a jagged chandelier above them. And as they walk down the hall, Liam describes more gruesome paintings and creepy knickknacks to them. Abby picks something up, a stone wasp, and it stings him and deals poison damage. And as they walk down the hall with Devin in the lead, and she's been tied up so she can't cause any problems, but partway down the hall, she vanishes. And she suddenly experiences being underwater and feeling a bunch of little somethings biting her, some sort of fish or something, and they're dealing poison damage as they do so. Meanwhile, the party rushes to a painting that's parallel to where Devin disappeared, and it depicts a body of water. There's a little bit of metagaming there. They don't know she's underwater, but Liam doesn't call them out on it, so presumably it doesn't bother him, or he doesn't make the connection that they're drawing that conclusion based on information they wouldn't have actually had. But again, who cares? They pull the painting down and see runes on the wall, but they all roll terribly and can't figure out what it says. So then Liam describes how they hear a thump from a nearby room. There are doorways out of this room that the party hasn't really been worrying about, but now they are because one of them is thumping. So they open a door and they find a huge fish tank with Devin struggling inside. At this point, Liam drops them into initiative, basically to see if they can get Devin out of the tank before the fish bite her to death. Now, Liam has ruled that Devin can't cast spells in the water that require verbal components, which is not how I tend to rule things, but I can understand the ruling. But she also can't use somatic materials because her hands are tied behind her back. Both Liam and Laura also forgot that the subtle spell metamagic option actually eliminates the need for somatic components as well, probably because Laura was thinking about Harry Potter and how their version of subtle spellcasting is just nonverbal. But after a few rounds, Devin realizes she could use Misty Step to escape the tank, since it's only a verbal spell, and so she appears next to them. Dren secretly feeds Devin a healing potion, and at this point, they spot another sigil, and they press Devin's blood against it. But actually, Liam asks Laura if she's casting the spell. It turns out she has a secret cantrip that opens these doors, so it's not just blood and a handprint. So from the perspective of the class members, so when she's pressing her blood against it and it doesn't work, that just means she needs to try harder. But in truth, she's just choosing not to cast the spell yet.
Now would be a good time for a haiku.
Can I have a haiku?
You can do it, my dear friend Devin Blue Button. Please don't die now, please.
We've talked about this before, but Sam is so good at setting up the other players to have great role-playing moments, like he does here. But eventually Devin does cast the spell, and this opens the door and reveals the next room. It seems like a big empty room except for a cabinet on the opposite wall with the same sigil set into the doors. So that's what they were looking for. They apparently didn't need to move any of the things on the walls after all, which is strange because it seems like that's the puzzle that was designed. So either that was a red herring, which I am not wild about, or the players were so terrified of touching anything on the walls, or simply weren't getting the hint, and Liam saw they were 3 hours into a game, and so he decided to give them a different solution. He revealed the sigil to the players to get them past this obstacle. I obviously don't know which is the truth, but I kind of hope it's the latter. I hope that he looked at the clock and said, boy, they're not getting it, or they're too terrified to actually interact with the puzzle. I'm going to give them the easy option, which is I'm going to reveal the sigil that they know they can open with Devin's blood. God, these D names. Anyway, the room has some sort of strange pattern on the floor in a spiraling circle, and it doesn't seem to be simply decoration, but the party can't figure out what purpose it might serve. And at this point, Liam puts his first map down on the table and asks everyone where they're positioned. As the rest of the rogues examine the floor, Dren discreetly unties Devin's hands. And just at that moment, some metal doors slam shut behind them, locking them in this room. And just listen to how Liam continues to set the scene and build the tension leading up to this encounter.
And that's when you hear, not in your ears, at the base of your skull, inside your skull.
Is that your grandmother?
If it is, her voice has changed.
Dogs.
Shit, dogs!
Dogs. And then you hear, way high at the apex of this tower, a chime.
No.
Guys?
Five.
Puffs of sparkling white and purple smoke to one side, to the other side, around you. Suddenly, you're looking at 4 smoking, misty, almost hairless dogs. Angry looking, slobbering. 3 of a certain size, 1 much larger, staring at you with glassy, milky, white eyes. It's big, it's muscular, it's ropey, and they bare their teeth.
In my video about Liam's first one-shot, I talked about how good he is at building tension and setting the scene in a frightening way. Now, because the nature of this one-shot is primarily structured around the tension of potential infighting, we haven't really seen that same skill deployed quite as often in this session. But here, Liam pulls out the trick and uses it to make this moment really unnerving. And I wonder if we're dealing with 4 dogs instead of 5, because Devin took so much damage in that water tank over multiple rounds. And so here everyone rolls for initiative and the dogs move first. They rush in and they attack everyone, and even though one of them does attack Devin, I think going down to 4 enemies still helps this party a lot, just because it frees someone to fight another dog and get sneak attack, rather than each of them getting attacked by their own discrete enemy.
Do you know why they call it? Because Obby is actually short for Obenthal. It's sort of a nickname.
And at this point, something floats down from the ceiling. Something that mutters with the voice they heard earlier. Something that looks kind of like a beholder, but with fewer eye stalks. This is a spectator, a lesser beholder that is typically summoned by a spellcaster to serve as a guardian. I'm always in favor of another opponent entering a fight partway through. It makes the fight more dynamic, and it keeps the players on their toes. It offers another challenge they weren't expecting, and it feels realistic, like not all enemies show up all at once in every scenario. But I do find it works best if you can foreshadow it before the fight begins. And there's no question here, Liam definitely did that with the mysterious voice they heard before the dogs appeared. Anyway, they're in combat, and now feels like as good a time as any to mention that Tarvis can't hit shit tonight. Travis has rolled an improbable number of 1s, and on his attack rolls, he's barely rolled above a 10 all night. Meanwhile, Dren gets the killing blow on basically all the dogs. She killed all the mimics, and now she kills just about all the dogs. She's kicking ass. So now they just have to deal with the spectator.
I give haiku to Dren. I say, I'm Obby the rat. You know why they call me that? Because I hate haiku.
That was a really good haiku!
Anyway, then Delwith gets the kill on the spectator, and it lands on top of Tarvis, pinning him and amplifying his embarrassment. Devin conjures the sounds of more dogs on the other side of the doors, and so everyone thinks they don't have much time. She opens the cabinet doors, and sure enough, they see an emerald. Actually, Devin casts a minor illusion at this point, and now there are 2 emeralds. There's some other stuff too. There's a set of panpipes made of bones that are too small to be anything but child bones. There's an iron amulet with an eye etched into it, and there's a green ledger. Here's another quick lesson. We talked about this before when discussing the dragons and the Chrome Conclave attack on Amon, but when you're giving your players a list of things, making the first and the last the most important is a really handy way to make sure they remember the most important details. Tarvis says they're worried about traps, so he starts by examining the green book to see if anything happens when he takes it. Well done. Nicely played. Devin takes the emerald and hands it off to Dren, but she does so basically pretending she's just testing the stuff on the shelves. Okay, nothing happened when I took the emerald. Here, you take it and I'll grab something else. Wink. But at this point, Tarvis got what he wanted, and so he goes to cut Devin's throat. But he rolls a low enough stealth check that he matches her passive perception, so now it's an initiative roll to see who can react faster. Great ruling from Matt. From Liam. Shoot, I knew I was going to do that. I'm so used to talking about the Game Master being Matt. I was going to refer to Liam at some point instead on accident. Devin beats Tarvis in initiative and casts Mirror Image on herself and runs deeper into the room, and Tarvis throws a dagger and nixes one of the illusions. Then, everybody rolls for initiative. That's a really nice way to handle it. It gives both Tarvis and Devin a fighting chance at accomplishing their task before everyone else jumped in as well. And now, everything is popping off. Dren pickpockets the ledger from Tarvis. Devin casts Color Spray on Delwith and Tarvis, blinding them. The others attack Dren and either miss or get rid of the last of her mirror images. Then, Dren threatens to destroy the ledger and the emerald.
Is that your action?
I'm threatening to,
Okay.
unless everyone stands down.
Dren, you are one of us. Why are you doing this?
Because I love Devin!
What are you talking about? She's a girl. Oh.
You know that if you leave here, no matter where you go, we will find you and we will kill you.
It doesn't matter, I'll take care of her. I have a lot of magic.
Words
Dren.
coming out of a dead woman as well.
Dren, she has betrayed her own family. You don't think she will betray you too? Over gambling debts. I live with my wife, her mother, and her mother. And I hate them all, but we all get along because we are family. She will lie and stab you in the back.
Never!
She will. She told me she would when we were alone together.
No, I did not.
Yes, she
did. You,
did.
Devin? No, I didn't.
She
Devin,
did.
you said you would protect
She
me.
told
She
me.
told me she was going to protect me.
She told me that she was going to kill everyone.
That is a brilliant bluff from Delwith. Because obviously the players at the table all know that Delwith and Devin didn't discuss double-crossing Dren, the dwarf, and the dolt who can't hit anything. But the characters don't know that. And Delwith can take advantage of that uncertainty by trying to drive a wedge between Dren and Devin. Additionally, the fact that both Delwith and Obby see this as a very likely course of action for Devin does speak to how well this possibility was foreshadowed by Devin's backstory and current circumstances. So that's another point to Liam for setting up this scenario. But this is a Mexican standoff, mostly characterized by Tarvis saying, kill them now, but nobody taking the first move, until Delwith finally casts Burning Hands on the halflings. But instead of just having that happen, Liam calls for another initiative roll. And I think that's a really good way to handle this. It keeps a situation like this from automatically going to the first person to say something, when obviously every character was prepped and ready to leap into action once anybody else made a move. Dren passes the emerald off to Devin and attacks Tarvis.
I look down at this tiny little Benedict Arnold. And I take my scimitar and swing it.
Go.
What the? And I'm overcome with nostalgia of when she was cool.
Dren doesn't get sneak attack on her opponents because Devin is too far away, which gives the other class members a distinct advantage. Or it would, if they could roll worth a damn. Which they cannot, for like a couple of rounds. However, eventually they are able to knock Devin unconscious. Now, Sam feels so bad for Laura/Devin, but the other players remind him that his character would want to kill her, so he tries to go through with that. This is very common for any PvP game, as well as a lot of evil games. And I think they handle it really well here. But Sam is also an exceptional role player, so be forewarned that not every player is going to be comfortable playing an evil character once the time comes for them to do evil things. Travis, on the other hand, has no such limits. His moments haven't been as short and concise and easy to clip as the other character moments I've included, but he's been sinister and threatening all game, and he's been doing a great job of it. And now he puts his money where his mouth is, and viciously kills Devin in front of Dren. The party attacks Dren, and she uses her last action to rip up the ledger.
Though I die today, at least with my love, I go, fuck all you bastards.
Tarvis chokes Dren out with his whip, and then stabs her in the neck and finishes her off. He collects the pieces of the ledger, but he knows he might be fully fucked if he can't reassemble it and transcribe the info. But he's gotta try. Abby cuts off Devin's hand to open future doors, but there's no sigil to get them out of this room. They find some levers in the cabinet, and Tarvis flips one of them, and the floor electrifies Delwith and Abby, dealing 8d6 lightning damage and knocking them unconscious. He rushes over and feeds them some potions, and before they can try another lever and try to get out, the Shrew teleports into the room. She says the clasp is not the only one who hears rumors from little birds, aka, she knew they were coming. She traps them in a transparent box of magic and then drains the moisture out of them, killing them. Then their bodies are dropped into the room with the mimic corpses, where presumably the mimics were supposed to eat them. They're no longer able to because they got killed. And that's the end of the game. And this is where it's worth pointing out what a screw job is. From what I can tell, it's a term from a wrestling match where the managers disadvantage a wrestler without their prior knowledge. AKA, this whole game was rigged against the players from the beginning. It was always a suicide mission. And I personally have mixed feelings about that because I don't know if I like the idea that these characters went through this adventure and none of it mattered. It's a cool literary idea. I do kind of like fictional stories where people do things and then their hubris gets them killed and none of it really mattered and no one's ever going to know about it. But it does feel very different when you're playing those characters yourself. It might not feel good to go through all this and then discover it was all meaningless. However, there's a flip side to that as well, because not all the players liked playing bad guys. And it's hard not to see that as a bummer that the worst characters won the adventure. So it probably feels kind of good for those players to know that these bad guys didn't actually win. They met the same gruesome end as everyone else. After all, as the Shrew kills these characters and the session ends, the cast cheers and applauds Liam for a session well done. So it seems they didn't mind their gruesome fates. So this is a scenario where you just need to make a judgment call based on how well you know your players, or what thematically you want to explore with the story you're telling. And that definitely helps if you've already put your thumb on the scale and created characters who are kind of already designed to be in a tragic story. Or rather, maybe a story where no one's going to make it out unscathed. Speaking personally, If it's possible for the players to escape, I would let them do so. In this case, that might not have been possible with Devin dead, but I also suspect this death was coming for the party no matter what. And at this point, Liam asks them all to reveal their secrets. Albie had no secrets, he was just loyal to Tarvis. Tarvis wanted the ledger and had to kill Devin. Both Delwith and Albie did know that Devin was supposed to die, but Mary Elizabeth revealed she never got a chance to kill Tarvis. But Travis had a feeling that's what she wanted, because twice during the game, she got behind him and he got bad vibes. Everyone knew Dren's secret, obviously, and Laura reveals that Devin would have also betrayed Dren. But Laura didn't want to. She even asked Liam if she could not betray Dren. But Liam said, no, you're all playing bad people. And then Liam leaves off with his final thoughts. He'd always wanted to play in an evil campaign, but no one ever wanted to run one, so he ran it himself. And man oh man, if that's not just the quintessential Dungeon Master experience, I don't know what is. But thankfully, Liam is an incredible game master, so if you want to run your own evil party one-shot, you can take a look at this game and pick up a lot of useful advice so you're not starting from square one. Thanks so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed this look at this one-shot, and thank you so much to my patron Stephanie Moss for sponsoring this video. Like I said earlier, we've got some more sponsored episodes of Critical Role coming over the next couple of months as sort of bonus episodes, so look forward to those. But in the meantime, make sure to like and subscribe and come back here on Thursday for the next episode of Critical Role Demystified, where we discuss episode 66 of the Vox Machina campaign, A Traveler's Gamble. Can the party secure the help of Jaman Saord? Can the party get their hands on Cabal's Ruin? Can Scanlan complete his drug deal? We'll talk about all that on Thursday. While you're here, consider joining my Discord server and sign up for my newsletter to catch all of my updates. All those links are in the doobly-doo below, along with a link to check your voter registration. Make sure you're registered to vote. Also, just a reminder that Donald Trump tried to cancel the Affordable Care Act several times, and now he's claiming he protected it because he's a serial liar and a con man, and should not be trusted to run a Dairy Queen, let alone a country, so vote accordingly. If you're looking for another video to watch, I've got a video about a layer from Critical Role's Feywild arc, how I thought it was kind of underwhelming, and how Matt Colville's Book of Layer offers a ton of advice to make better layers in your own game, so check that video out right here. Until next time, play fair, and have fun.